What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for November 26, 2023. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a game day edition of the podcast. Before we get into today's episode, let's recap yesterday's question of the day. In honor of Brandon Graham set to set the Eagles record for all-time games played, I said, who are your most beloved Eagles? And I gave you the option of BG, Kelsey, B-Dog, and Reggie. And with 62% of the vote, no surprises here. It was Brian Dawkins. I would have thought it would have been a little bit more spread out, I guess, but B-Dog still your most beloved Eagle. Might be doing something more with a beloved athlete theme later, early next year, so stay tuned for that. There is no new Back to the Future this week due to the holiday, so be sure to go through, check out the archives, and go through, catch up on everything you missed. As far as December goes, I did say we've been doing the Philly Sports Most Disappointing Athlete for November. For December, we're going to do an advent calendar leading up until Christmas. Each day, we're going to open the box and see, or open the window and see what the day has in store. Also, I'm doing the first annual This Day in Philly Sports History food drive, kind of a reverse advent calendar. So just trying to help replenish some of the food banks around here, my area, your area, wherever. They can always use the help. So stay tuned for that. Each day I'll give you an item that you can put in a bag and then donate to whatever food bank is in your area that you need. If you know someone, whatever. But I kind of been leaving this open-ended to see where it goes. But I do feel it's something important that we need to do and use this platform for good. All right. Good win for the Sixers yesterday, 127-123 over OKC. Joe was only one assist shy of a triple-double. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander torched them for like 31 points. It seems like they tend to give up a lot of points to the stars of whatever team they're playing. So something worth monitoring as we get closer to the trade deadline. But overall, a good win on the road for the Sixers yesterday. Good to see them bounce back after losing 2 in a row. Hopefully they can build up some momentum. Kelly Oubre should be coming back hopefully either next week or this coming week or next week. That will actually provide a spark. It seems like once he went out is when things started getting a little iffy for them. But overall, good win for the Sixers, 127-123 over the Thunder. Great win for the Flyers yesterday. Won in overtime shootout over over the Islanders. Backup goalie Samuel Ersson definitely looked good, and it's one of those things you can never have too many goaltenders, whether you use them both or it's something you use as a trade chip. But he looked really good, and Tyson Forster got the game winner, game-winning shootout goal, kind of a walk-off there. So good win for the young Flyers. It could have gone very south if they had spiraled now after winning 5 straight and spiraled into a losing streak. So for a young team, a win like this against a decent team is a good thing, especially since it was gritty. And it could have easily gone the other way. So definitely we'll take that. Disappointing news for our Union. They lost 1-0 to Cincinnati FC. So their season is now over. It's going to be a long winter. Actually, it's not that long. I guess they start in the spring right around the same time as baseball. But no more soccer in the Philadelphia area until the spring. But that's okay because we have Eagles football, Sixers basketball, and Flyers hockey. And if you want to get shirts for any of those sports, even the Union, if you want to celebrate their season, go to phillygoat.com. I've been telling you, it's a great way to spend your Christmas dollars. Get something for the whole family. We started to do some shopping on there for our family. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off. We talked about this. I'll get it out. Talked about those Quakers sweatshirts that were inspired by our podcast. You have the Mega John sweatshirts. Anything you want for the Sixers. They have the Tyrese Maxey ones. They have a ton of Joe ones. They have the old school favorite AI with his hand to the crowd. Just go check them out there. And it's great for kids. They have kid sizes as well. So go to phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off of your order to do your Christmas and holiday shopping. All right, Eagles time. And by all stretches of the imagination, this is a trap game. Coming off the Super Bowl rematch in Kansas City on Monday night. Looking ahead, next week they got the 49ers at home in an NFC Championship rematch. Sandwiched in between is the Buffalo Bills game at home, which happens to also be a Kelly Green game. I just don't know what to make of this game and the Eagles, to be honest. I mean, if you'd have told me at the beginning of the season, I said they were going to win one against Kansas City and lose one against, like in that game, Kansas City, Buffalo, they were going to lose one of those two games. Is this the loss? They're definitely probably going to lose again. And if they are, I'd much rather it be this game. I mean, I'm going to the game, so I definitely am not going to be actively rooting against them. I mean, you never know. You just want to keep playing good. I do think this is a get-right spot for the offense. The passing, like overall, like they should be able to, with a balanced attack, move the ball against the Bills. So scoring points, I don't think is going to be the problem. It's just a matter of which Bills offense shows up. I mean, it could be very well be a shootout. Buffalo could turn the ball over 6 times. It's feast or famine for them, and I cannot get a read. Like they played okay last week, but going into last week's game, they were terrible. So I really, for the first time all season, I don't know which way to go. Like with the Kansas City game last week played out exactly almost how I thought it was. I thought it was going to be ugly, and I thought if the Eagles could hang in there and just make one more extra turnover than Kansas City, that they would win, and that's basically what happened. I don't know where to go with this game. Like my head is telling me this is the game they lose because of the sandwich, because they've only lost once, and like I can't. I honestly though can't see them losing this game. That's the other part. So I mean, ultimately, I think the offense gets right this game. I think defensively, it's going to be. I want to see improvement with the run game because Buffalo. The one thing about them is part of the reason why they fired their offensive coordinator was not running the ball effectively enough, and which is something they kind of started to do last week. So if we shut down the run and can get after Josh Allen, who is also banged up, they should be able to put some pressure on him. As far as our official pick, we are 8-5-1 on the season. I cannot pick a side in this game. Again, I could see this going the Eagles running away with it. I can see it being a close game. I could also see the Eagles getting blown out in this game. Just because, I shouldn't say blown out, but similar to the Jets game where it's just like, it's just not clicking. Like last week, you just kind of always had that sense. As long as they kept it close, they had a shot. The Jets game, you kind of figured it was just like, I could see this game playing out that way too. I just don't know which way to go. I mean, logically, I think the offense gets right here. I think they're going to move the ball. I think they're going to put up points. I'd like to see more running the ball. And if they can get Josh Allen to turn the ball over, they should be okay. My gut, like I said, I couldn't tell you one way or the other. Like I'm going in. To me, this is a coin flip game. And only because of what's coming next week. They've done a very good job under Nick Sirianni, though, of focusing one game at a time, and I think that plays a lot into why they've compiled so many wins over the past couple of years. But I can't decide on a side, but I do think this game goes over. The over is 48.5, and that's going to be our official bet. I think the Eagles put up 24 points themselves, if not more. I think Buffalo definitely gets into the 20s as well. I don't necessarily see it being like a 30 game in the 30s for both teams, but I think the Eagles are pushing 30 points this week, and you get Buffalo to throw in 17, and there you go. You get the over. So I'm going over on this game, but as far as the side, I don't even know if I'm going to make my ceremonial Eagles bet -3. I mean, I just don't know. I think if the Eagles win, they win by more than 3. I will say that. If the Eagles win, they cover. But unofficially, of course, because I always do it, I'll put in the Eagles bet -3, but I'm not making it official. I'm not confident on that at all. But we are going to take the over 48.5, and just going to hopefully enjoy a good football game this afternoon, because I can't read this at all. But that's our question of the day, as always on game days. Let me know what you think. Who wins this game? Eagles, Bills. How do you see it playing out? Hit me up on social media, Jimbo_Mont, Twitter and Twitter and TikTok. Instagram at Philly Jimbo. Hit me up on Facebook if you're friends with me on Facebook. Text message, comment, and leave it wherever you're watching or listening to this. But I can't get a read on this at all. I think if they had one more loss, I would say they would win, though, if that helps. I think it's just the law of averages. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Like, they're going to have to lose a game at some point. And I'd rather, again, maybe it's wishful thinking. Maybe I'd rather, if they're going to lose a game, lose this one instead of next week. Or maybe I'm just I'm just way overthinking it. Maybe they're not going to lose a game. Let me know all of that. Question of the day: what's your take on the Eagles game this afternoon? Before the game, it's a 4:25 start. Be sure to check out my boys over at the Clashing Conferences podcast. It's an around the horn style look at the NFC East. Good episode this week, as always. That's the Clashing Conferences podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. All right, today we're going to go back to 1964, and we're going to talk another. I feel like every day during basketball season we could do a Wilt Chamberlain this day in Philly sports. Like, it could be this day in Wilt Chamberlain sports history, and there would always be something. But on this day, the Sixers beat the Warriors 128-117. The same Warriors team that had just played in Philadelphia 2 years before. Remember, they moved to San Francisco. Syracuse moved down to Philly, become the 76ers. Hal Greer had 26 points, 10 assists for the Sixers. Luke Jackson, 24 points and 16 rebounds. But as always, the big story was Philly's own Wilt Chamberlain had 63 points and 32 rebounds in the loss. That 63 are the most points ever scored against the Sixers. As the Sixers is the key there. The most points ever scored against the Sixers, as they were known as the Sixers. For the franchise, guess who has the most points against the Sixers franchise going back to the Syracuse days? That would be Wilt Chamberlain, who a year before had 70 against the Syracuse Nationals. He also had the top four out of the top five high scoring games against the Sixers franchise. 63 is the most ever scored as the Sixers, if that makes any sense. Hopefully that makes sense. But 3 of the 4 of them came while they were the Syracuse Nationals. The closest non-Wilt Chamberlain high score against the Sixers was Bradley Beal, threw down 60 in 2021. That year, it gets better though. That year, the Sixers went 40-40, lost to the Celtics in the division finals 4-3, almost making it to the NBA Finals. The irony of it all is Wilt Chamberlain, in the season that he set the single game scoring record against the Sixers as an opponent, was then traded to the Sixers that January. And the rest, as they say, is history. It took a couple years, but he did bring a championship to Philadelphia. But on this day, it was Wilt Chamberlain scoring 63 points in a 128-117 Sixers victory over the San Francisco Warriors, setting the record for most points scored by a Sixers opponent. As we said, 3 of the top 5 all-time against the franchise, dating back to Syracuse, belonged to Wilt Chamberlain as well. He was an equal opportunity, just beast, no matter who he played, where he played. But ironically, later that season, he did get traded to the Sixers and would lead them to a championship within a couple years before being traded to the Lakers to win another championship. I think he won one with the Lakers. But on this day, it was all Wilt. And like I said, I totally feel like we could do this. I could start a whole separate podcast this day in Wilt Chamberlain history. That maybe that's the moneymaker here. But like I said, the rest is history. But Wilt owns the scoring record as an opponent, and which is odd to me. I would have always thought it would have been Michael Jordan, just because of the way Jordan always played against the Sixers. But no, Jordan was like, there were like 3 or 4 guys ahead of him as the all-time scorer. But Wilt, 63 points on this day back in 1964. All right, I talked to you about Philly Goat. Car can for the people at the office, and I mean, buy one for yourself. This is one of those gifts. Like if your parents are like mine, who they're at this point they're older, they don't really need much, and they're like, oh, give me a nice card and hang out with us, let us see the kids. That's all they want for Christmas. This is my dad would love a car can, and I think that's one of the things I'm gonna get him for Christmas, because he's very particular about his cars. And especially with the kids riding in the cars now, it's something that he can just throw his trash in and keep everything organized. I also could see it. He's the one I think I'm going to buy the trunk thing for. But go to Car Can, check them out. They have a wide selection of car organizational items. They have the original car can that fits on the back of your seat. But check them out. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery 20 off for 20% off your order. It is a great gift for the people in the office or for the people that have whatever they want. And it's like, hey, you guys know I talk about my kids being slobs in my truck all the time. Hey, here are your grandkids. Here's a car can to make sure your car stays clean. So go to carcan.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery 20 off for 20% off of your order. All right, time for today's Philly sports most disappointing athlete. This one's a frustrating one. Today we're going to go back to Larry Hughes. And Larry Hughes was the number 8 pick in the 1998 draft. He was supposed to be AI's sidekick, one of, one of 2 or 3 guys that, I'm still trying to get rid of this cold. But one of 2 or 3 guys who were supposed to be the answer to the answer sidekick. And he was a Larry Brown type of guy, slasher. Wasn't necessarily going to be a lights-out shooter, but played good defense. So much so of a Larry Brown guy that Larry Brown promised Larry Hughes that if you're there at 8, we're going to draft you. Well, Larry Brown later talked about that and said, yeah, well, we had a need. That's great. You filled the need. No big deal. The issue is, unexpectedly, Paul Pierce started falling down the board. He wasn't supposed to be there at 8, and he fell to them at 8. The Sixers still, because of that promise, took Larry Hughes, and Paul Pierce was drafted 2 picks later. So Larry Hughes only played 2 years in Philly, averaged 9.6 points a game, 3.5 rebounds, which both are below his career average. Who Larry Hughes did go on to have like a solid NBA career, 14 years, bouncing around team to team, but always was kind of like that all everything fit for a team. Not sure if he ever won a championship or not, but the 2 years he played in Philly were not his best comparatively speaking to the rest of his career. But Paul Pierce only went on to be a Hall of Famer. And here's what I don't understand still to this day about it, and I know we're almost 30 years later, but the Sixers, Larry Brown said the Sixers had Paul Pierce ranked number 2, like the number 2 overall prospect in the draft. Not sure how you have your number 2 overall prospect in the draft fall to you and you not take him because of a promise. Could you imagine Paul Pierce and AI playing together? Now there's a what if. But no, we ended up with Larry Hughes, and he was gone after 2 years. Now, he did, in a roundabout way, help the Sixers get to the finals. Larry Hughes was traded for Tony Kukoc, who Tony Kukoc was used in the trade to bring Dikembe Mutombo to Philly. So he did have some positive, and like I said, in a roundabout way. But we could have had Paul Pierce. We should have had Paul Pierce. And like I said, imagine Paul Pierce and AI. AI driving the lane, kicking out to Paul Pierce, or vice versa. Come on now. Seriously. But no, again, we ended up with Larry Hughes, who did help us get Dikembe Mutombo. But wait, going back, remember I said Larry Hughes was pick number 8. Paul Pierce was pick number 10. Who was number 9 that draft? If you want to get even more pissed off, Dirk Nowitzki. Thanks a lot, Larry. both of you, Larry Brown and Larry Hughes. Appreciate that, guys. All right. On this day, back in 1964, the Sixers beat the Warriors 128-117. Wilt Chamberlain had a typical Wilt Chamberlain game, though. 63 points and 32 rebounds for a losing effort for the Warriors. The 63 points most ever scored by the Sixers. Wilt would later be traded to the Sixers in January of that year and ultimately lead them to a championship 2 years later. Thanks again to Larry Brown for drafting Larry Hughes. God, Larry. Oh. Anyway, we're going with the over 48.5 in the Buffalo Eagles game today. I cannot get a read on this. I'm sorry for the cop-out. I don't have a good feeling about this. I don't know why. I think they need, especially with everything that's been going on, it might be good for them to get knocked down a peg. And if they're going to lose, this is the game they need to lose. If not, let's just run the table then. Screw it. But good win for the Sixers. Good win for the Flyers. Congratulations on a good season to the Union. They will be back next year. Be sure to respond to the question of the day. Let me know, am I out of line with what my thinking on the Eagles game today? Is it an Eagle route? Let me know. It's game day. It's going to be chilly. It's going to be fun. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Sunday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.